Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the South Carolina map right now, and I think we should dub that Biden blue. There's really no spinning it other than Biden just, that's a beatdown, especially in a multi-candidate field, to come away with every county, the lion's share of the delegates. Anybody surprised by that? He was kind of left by the side of the road there for a while.
Well, the pollsters were surprised. I mean, what? The closest public poll had Biden winning by what, 20?
Something like that, yeah. I have to double check,
Yeah.
but it was there was one poll that I think had Biden at 44, and that was clearly an outlier
Yeah.
among the public polls. But yeah, this was a huge overperformance relative to what the public polls were saying for Biden.
Yeah. No, I think the other interesting thing, I guess, is, I mean, you just look at the entire map. I mean, pretty much this is why we're talking about Biden today. This is probably why Pete dropped out yesterday, a little bit surprisingly, which, we'll talk about a little bit. But, Biden only wins by 10, and, maybe Pete's still in it. Maybe we're talking about Biden limping across the Super Tuesday finish line, but instead we're talking about him, coming in a strong second after Super Tuesday.
In his defense, though, for Bernie, Bernie did not walk out of the state without delegates. He picked things up in each of the congressional districts. So, as much as the top line was certainly a victory for Joe Biden, I don't think it was. The night could have been a lot worse for Bernie Sanders. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, you're right. The congressional district level delegates helped him. It could have been worse, I guess, but I don't think it means it was okay. One thing we were talking about on the stream that night was, this was the first really large state, or a larger state, and also certainly one with a very large African American population. And while it's not a monolithic voting bloc, it's an incredibly important one in the Democratic primary. It's just a major part of their coalition. And it's something that Joe Biden has obviously had a long history with people in the community, especially in South Carolina. And it's just hard to build, too much around not having that block in your campaign. So I think it's going to be interesting going forward to see if Sanders can make inroads. We're going to see that tomorrow night in some places we'll talk about a little bit. But yeah, it could have been a worse night, but it wasn't a good night. I don't know. I think Joe Biden, he called the shot, right? He said he was going to win. He said months ago it was going to be his firewall, which, if you're talking 3 months out and you're theoretically the polling front runner, the former vice president, the long-time senator, this, large figure in the party, and 3 months out you're talking about a firewall, that's generally not good. But it played out. This, whether or not it's the path to the nomination, it's the one that he was going to pursue, and he made it happen when, like you said a couple of weeks ago, I don't think a lot of people would have expected this.
Yeah. I guess the question is South Carolina, is it foreshadowing for some of the other southern states coming up tomorrow? Alabama, Arkansas, etc. What do you think, Podcool?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the pieces here is just that short on-ramp that we keep talking about. The 72 hours between the South Carolina Democratic primary into Super Tuesday is probably just not enough time. And it's not enough time for a few different reasons. First, yes, we had Mayor Pete drop out of the race yesterday, but we're going to be talking about all the votes that Mayor Pete will get anyway, based on absentee and early vote on Super Tuesday. And so if I voted for Mayor Pete, I might be a little bit upset with him, because I'd like to go back and maybe change my vote going into Super Tuesday, but unfortunately those absentee early voters are unable to do that. And so I think that's sort of one of the reasons. Second is, even before that, there was sort of an open question as to whether or not this so-called moderate lane would be able to consolidate behind a single candidate. And there might just not be enough time, especially considering the wild card of Michael Bloomberg. We're not sure how Bloomberg is going to fare tomorrow. Some of the public polling indicates that he's dropping quite a bit relative to the debate. However, that seems to have stayed, that is relative to before his debate performance. But that might be, we don't know. We just haven't seen anything. So it's sort of an odd case, that, and something we haven't seen, where we have a candidate who didn't compete in the first four contests is now now is the first time Bloomberg's name is going to be on a ballot, and I think that might be a challenge for Joe Biden because they're probably more likely competing from some of the same votes.